And she wrote a book, which is how you will have heard of her, and you'll hear about this book. The House in Good Taste, it wasn't like Martha Stewart. It wasn't specific decorating ideas, and it was generally, it was script. It was not, I mean, there were, I can't remember whether there were illustrations, they were drawings. What it was saying a couple of things. Tom, she said, a man is a guest in the house no matter how long he lives there. This is paraphrasing it. A house belongs to the woman and it reflects her. You know, the man is our guest. So he may be comfortable, we want to make him comfortable, but it's really ours. And this was the thought of the time, and men cared about it less. So you decorated you planned your house to make the man comfortable, but it was really a reflection of who you were and your taste. And your taste, if it was good taste, was 18th century French. And she talked about a house being comfortable. She talked a lot about suitability. You should put in you should have a comfortable chair if you like to read. You should have a lamp that's a good reading lamp over the chair. That kind of thing for their purposes. You shouldn't have things just for show. So she was very practical minded, but she went in it did say photographs in color. The edition that I have is a later reprint, and the one I have is just the copy. But I see she did have. And this book was really the beginning of the modern decorating field. She worked for a very elevated clientele, as I said. This is Mrs. Frick of the Frick family with the Frick Museum. This is in what is now the Frick Museum, which was a place where they lived. And the room, you see, the boudoir, and redone as the Boucher room, which is one of the museum rooms. So as her boudoir, so this was downstairs. This is the Frick. Have you guys been to the Frick collection? You ought to go. It's on the corner of 70th Street and Fifth Avenue. And it's a neoclassical building that was designed around a pool in the center and an atrium. And it was a residence. You can't go upstairs. But it's a lovely museum. They have fabulous, I would have certainly mentioned it last term. They have fabulous antique French furniture and the very fine paintings. And then their exhibitions, I think it's next week or the next couple of weeks, they're going to have an exhibition of paintings from the Netherlands, that including the famous one, the girl with a pearl earring, that are, the museum's being renovated. So they've sent paintings that don't normally leave the country. They have very small exhibitions. I mean, they have one with 4 Goya paintings, and that was all. Well, they have small rooms, and most of it they don't change around. But it's, if you are, well, whether you're a fan or not, you can see some very fine 18th century pieces there. Anyway, that converted, she designed it. And this was Mrs. Frick's bathroom to remind us at this point, having a modern bathroom with modern appliances was a big new deal.
That's a nice bathroom.
Because when J.P. Morgan put in an 11-foot bathtub, that was a big deal. I mean, our notion of modern is very different. Look at the bathtub. Isn't that a great bathtub?
Mm-hmm. It's like the size of my bedroom.
We had a session last night that Tom came to with designers talking about developing housing for you don't say the aged anymore, for senior communities. And then there was the idea of aging in place, which is if you're getting older and you don't want to leave where you're living. Nobody talked about it specifically. I saw it on a plan. But someone told me, and I realized, as people get older, you can't climb in and out of bathtubs. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody I knew just had a hip replacement. And I, called and said, how are you? And she said, well, for one thing, I can't take a bath because you're not allowed to bend your leg for a while. But you realize that, that this kind of thing is difficult. So I'm not sure. There were showers. And then I think I saw a sketch of something, which I once saw an ad of a bathtub.
You open the door.
I can't figure out what happens though. It's sealed when you fill it up with water.
It seals, yeah.
Doesn't it leak?
No.
No, because it's really thick.
Yeah. It's designed that way.
Steps and
Okay, anyway, and they had bathtub with seat, but there's all that, this isn't making provision for that. One of the men last night did 3 super luxury houses. One man from Robert Stern's office, super luxury houses with obviously no limit to budget. And of one of the clients who was 78, 79, he said, these people didn't worry about making a provision for elderly and infirm. Well, no, you figure he didn't say it, but you figure if they became infirm, they just move elsewhere or hire enough servants to take care of it. Anyway, Elsie DeWolf moved with Elizabeth Marbury to the Villa Trianon, not the one that Josephine owned. She named it in France and decorated her home there. She was very successful. She was also very enterprising in that, having lived with a woman for a long time, in the 20s, she married Lord Mendel and became a lady and had a title and ended her life as the wife of an upper-class Englishman. She decorated this, remember the lattice work. So the Villa Trianon, she did the same thing she had done at the Colony Club. Just to show you more of how she lived. So you wouldn't look at this and say this is beautiful modern design. This isn't any particular style. It's using mostly 18th century French furniture, and except that the bathroom is very cluttered, it's lighter in look, lighter treatment on the walls than Victorian times. This was one of her more modern ventures, just showing you a foyer. Hope Hampton was a socialite debutante in the 1940s, and she had a townhouse in probably, it must have been the Upper East Side. And this was the rather dramatic look in the entryway, using mirrors and a pony skin carpet. And here another, also very fresh looking room. So you have to remember that these rooms were in comparison to what you saw last week. And, not too long after that. And her Paris apartment. This was after, I assume after Lord Mendel had died, so she was still in traditional. But here, I found it interesting. I just thought that photo of her was funny. Exercising, maybe. Here she is getting into what then would have been a more modern vein. I mean, the zebra striped upholstery was a big deal at one point, and having the very, very squared off built-in sofas. Next person we want to look at, whose name we want to know, is Ruby Ross Wood. Ruby Ross Wood was a small town woman who came to New York and wasn't sure what she would want to do. And someone said to her, actually a newspaper publisher said, well, why? She was a journalist. Well, why did you become a decorator? What's a decorator? She said to him. Well, this was, as we know, a new profession. She, through an introduction, turned out to be the ghostwriter that Elsie DeWolf used for House of Good Taste. That doesn't mean that they weren't Elsie's ideas, but she wasn't credited. It was discovered later that somebody wrote the book for her. Nowadays, you say, you write it with so-and-so.